It's beer o'clock on Real Ale Craft Beer, and welcome to one of the beers that really changed my mind when it came to beer. Probably around exactly 10 years ago. It's a can of Thornbridge Jaipur. If you have a look at my original review of Thornbridge Jaipur, I look 10 years younger, almost to the day. The beer was in a 330ml bottle. Then it went to a 500ml bottle. Now it's gone over to a 330ml can. So almost like a full journey around back to a 330 package. Which, yeah, I reviewed all the way back in the day. Completely different branding. It had like an Indian feel to the label. Of course, this is Jaipur. An Indian themed IPA, and I'm interested to see how this beer has kind of developed over time. So without further ado, let's get this beer out into a glass and see what we get. So the first ever IPA, kind of American style IPA that I reviewed, I had a box sent to me by a company Richard Burhouse used to run. Now Richard Burhouse is the founder of Magic Rock Brewing Company, but before that he ran a company, an online bottle shop called My Brewery Tap. And Richard got hold of me and he said, "I love what you do on YouTube. We spoke on the phone a few times. Can I send you a box of beer?" And I said, "Yeah, of course, send me a box of beer." At that time, I was drinking a lot of supermarket beer, which incidentally, I bought this in the supermarket. Amazing how things change, yeah? But, so Thornbridge were a much smaller company than they were back, than they are today. So this box of beer turns up from My Brewery Tap. Didn't know what to expect. Didn't know any of the beers in there. I had a box containing Dogfish Head 60-minute IPA, 90-minute IPA. In that very box was Jaipur. In the very box was Brewdog's Punk IPA. And I think Richard Burhouse's plan was to completely kind of set my course, change my direction when I was reviewing beer from the supermarket to, hey, there's some really good up and coming independents out there. So the first beer I reviewed out of the box was Brewdog's Punk IPA. Because a lot of people back then, they didn't know the beer and they were telling me this is a real Marmite beer. You can either love it or hate it. So I reviewed Brewdog's Punk IPA and I loved it. Absolutely loved it. And I quickly followed that up with Jaipur by Thornbridge. What I should have done really was looked at the review. I've not watched it since I produced it 10 years ago. I should have really watched it back to see what I thought of the beer and see what the beer kind of looks like today, how it looked kind of like 10 years ago. If there was a way of doing a side by side and doing this with the camera, then I probably would. But it's crystal clear, light golden amber, 2-finger whitehead, slow moving carbonation, and of course it's in a can. Thornbridge, I've noticed with Thornbridge, they're a bit old school. They want clarity in their beer. Whenever you drink a Thornbridge beer, the clarity is always really, really good. It was never like that back in the day, and I'm just judging this on the beer that it never had this clarity back in the day. It was always kind of either bottle conditioned or unfiltered. So they've already just judging this beer from the beer that I used to know, it's super clear. Let's get the aroma. It's got a nice American IPA aroma to it. Orange peel, grapefruit, pine needle. I was with a beer blogger. I will take a sip in a moment, I promise you, but this beer is like an important beer for me. And I want to make sure that I cover everything and I get everything right, because I've been on a journey, as has this beer. So I went on a bit of a pub crawl with a blogger back in the day. She now I think she works for Sky News, but she was always well into television. Her first and foremost kind of role was she was a television presenter, but she opened a YouTube channel called Beer Beauty, and her name was Maverine Cole. She won lots and lots of different awards in beer. Met her a few times. Lovely lady, and we went on she was invited down to Brains Brewery to brew a beer. I was invited to go along. We went out, we had a drink, we had some fun, and we went in a place at the end of the night. We went to the City Arms, which is a very famous pub in Cardiff, where they've got lots and lots of different taps, lots of different beers. And I remember walking through the door with Maverine, and we both looked at the tap line, and we seen this big orange plate with Jaipur written on it, and we both looked at each other, and we both exactly the same time we went Jaipur at the same time, and the head brewer of Brains was like, "What's going on?" type of thing. What are they talking about? And so we all had a pint of Jaipur, and you could tell even the head brewer of Brains was like, "Oh my god, this is delicious, this is absolutely fantastic." So I'm going to take my first sip of Jaipur in a long time, and I'm going to tell you if I still have that kind of Jaipur. What an amazing beer. Let's see if that beer still has the effect on me as it used to do. Cheers. It's good, but it's not the same beer. There's a nice amount of bitterness on the back end. It's not as punchy as it used to be. It's nowhere near as punchy. It's not, for me, it's not kind of mango, passion, grapefruit, fleshy blood orange, pine needles, singing from the songs. I'm like, oh, what an amazing beer. This is absolutely kind of top drawer stuff. It's not the same beer. It's not the same beer, and it's a shame. Because this beer used to be an amazing beer. It used to be an incredible, like top drawer. And some people might say, you might be typing right now. You might be typing, well, you've been on a beer journey too, and maybe the beer stayed the same, and you've tried all these other beers now, and things are different. No, that's not the case. That is not the case. It's not brimming anymore with orange peel, grapefruit, real kind of distinctive kind of orange peel, grapefruit, pine needle, lots of flavour and loads of bitterness on the back end. It's much more malty. You get a much bigger sense of the malt build now than you used to do. The malts in this beer, when they first produced it, were predominantly there to colour the beer, and of course to turn the sugars from the malts into alcohol. That was the malt's job back then. It wasn't to give loads and loads of flavour, but the malt is giving loads and loads of flavour in today's beer. There's a reason for that, as I mentioned earlier. And I'll go back to that very story of Richard Burhouse, the owner of Magic Rock, as a online bottle shop owner trying to turn my head away from supermarket beer into kind of like hardcore craft beer that was blossoming all the way back in 2010 in the UK, but on a very, very small scale. And Thornbridge were one of them breweries in that box. He really wants me to try this beer. He really wants me to move away from supermarket beer. And ironically now, here we are 10 years later, you can go in any supermarket in the UK. Started off with Waitrose. They had an exclusive deal with Waitrose, supplying 500ml bottles into Waitrose. And then they started producing for Asda and now Morrison's, Tesco's, Sainsbury's. You can find Jaipur now everywhere. And now the volume of that beer has exploded. The quality of the beer just isn't the same. It isn't the same. So that's it's a bit more than a beer review, this. It's almost like I might even call it the journey of Thornbridge's Jaipur, or the story of Thornbridge's Jaipur. And a lot of you old school viewers out there, if there's anybody out there who's been watching for 10 years or more, you'll agree with me on this very fact. And there's probably a lot of new people out there who watch me going, actually, I think Thornbridge is a pretty decent beer. It is. It is a pretty decent beer. It's not bad at all, especially for the two for £9, where it comes in at £1.12 a can. If you buy 8 cans for £9, that's £1.12 a can. But when I was buying this beer in Waitrose, the beer was £2.55. £2.55 for a 500ml bottle. So you can see the price has just crashed on this beer. It's £1.12 a can if you buy it as part of a 4-pack. The price has crashed, and the beer reflects that. The quality of the beer reflects that price crash. Some of the beer's been taken away. Some of that Jaipur, you know, when I walked into the bar and went, I want that. That's the only, I don't care what else is on the bar. I want that Jaipur. Those days, unfortunately, are gone. Those days are gone. And it's a story for many brewers who started off as craft brewers and now kind of produce predominantly for supermarkets. That they've moved away from niche craft beer into almost kind of like mainstream craft beer. Will it ever return to its former glory? I don't think so. I don't think so. But it's still not a bad beer. It'll always have a small place in here. I'm gonna rate it. Not a beer to sing from the top of the building from anymore. Very much, it's very malty now, a very malty beer. A lot has been taken away. It's part of me wants to say 6, but because I got fond memories of this beer, I'll give it a 7 out of 10. 7 out of 10 from Real Ale Craft Beer. Please put your comments in the comments box, subscribe to our daily beer and food reviews, give us a big fat thumbs up. Boom! Cheers.